I'm returning to consular for matters in relation to Mr Assange. There were just, I might have missed some as I was walking up, but whilst in my office, I saw the questions from Senator Whish-Wilson, but I did have a couple of additional questions over and above that. I think you talked to the committee prior to that about the situation in relation to Mr Assange withdrawing consent. I had some questions about, and I think there was the question asked and answered. I'm just going through the notes about what expectations or requests have been made of the United Kingdom in respect of terms of any extradition. But perhaps we'll start with that. Mr. Tom, can you provide us with an outline of the charges Mr. Assange potentially faces in the United States, and more particularly the sum of penalties he faces if found guilty?
Yes, Senator. Mr. Assange is currently facing extradition proceedings in the United Kingdom in relation to a number of alleged offences in the United States. I understand that he faces 17 counts of violating the US Espionage Act, including conspiracy to receive national defence information, obtaining national defence information, and disclosure of national defence information.
Now, I think the evidence has previously been given that none of those involve the death penalty. Is that right?
That is correct.
But I do want to know what the sum of the penalties might be.
The law indicates that a maximum penalty for each of those offences is 10 years on
it's 170
each
years
count, except for the conspiracy to commit computer intrusion, which he faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison.
But there's a potential, therefore, for a cumulative penalty, which is effectively
the other advice that we've received is that for similar offences in the United States, the cumulative approach has not been applied, and a somewhat, a significantly less period of time in jail has been proposed.
Say that again, that last bit.
The advice that we've received, it's very hard to find an exact case law that marries up, but advice that we have received indicates that for people charged with similar offences, the cumulative approach was not taken. So 175
but none of this
years,
this is almost without. Sorry, Mr. Larson.
Senator, can I'll actually answer by revealing my ignorance, I suspect, but I think the answer to the question is we don't know. Yes,
okay.
it could be cumulative, but we don't know.
Have we made any representations in respect of that?
In the United States, I would have to ask
or
Mr.
to the
Todd.
UK in terms of what conditions might be associated with any extradition?
I can answer in relation to the UK process.
No, I didn't ask that. I asked about what we have done.
I'm not aware of any representations.
Have we
to
made
UK on
any
that.
representations to the United Kingdom about any terms of any extradition should that be ordered by the court?
We've not sought to do that at this stage. We are aware, though, that under UK law, a person cannot be extradited to another country if they are to face the death penalty.
Which is not the case.
Which is not the case, so it doesn't apply.
Well, but correct. You've not made any representations in respect to Mr. Assange?
Not on this matter?
On the issue of any terms or
not
conditions?
At this point, Senator.
Would you? Is that is an open prospect for government?
Always.
I think we have confirmed this, that those identified charges, the 17 counts, none of those carry the death penalty, correct?
That's correct.
There is a question which I think is in the public arena about the effect of a cumulative
That is correct.
which is in effect, when you're not executed, but it's 100 and something years, which is an effective, I suppose, in prison till you die. I understand the state of the Virginia, which still has the death penalty, that what has been raised publicly is the possibility that more charges could be laid against Mr Assange once extradited. Are you aware of this risk?
Senator, I'm not aware of the specifics, but I would imagine that that is a possibility,
Right.
yes.
Therefore, it's consistent with our position, bipartisan position, that we do not, we seek an assurance that the death penalty not be, that the death penalty would not, a person would not face the death penalty. Would we consider making any representations to the UK about the prospect of death penalty, charges carrying the death penalty being made against Mr Assange post-extradition?
If I
i.e. once he is in the US jurisdiction, if extradition is ordered?
So, Senator, that, of course that is a possibility. I think in relation to any representations to the United Kingdom, representations of that nature would put the United Kingdom in a very difficult position, because you would be speculating as to criminal charges that might be brought against Mr Assange were he to be extradited to the United States.
Well, it
whereas-
might put people in a difficult position, but we have a pretty blanket position in relation to the death penalty regardless of the crime that's been asserted.
In which case, the correct location to make those representations would be to the United States
No,
at the time
but-
he was facing proceedings.
Correct. But surely we would be, well, there's a court process in place, extradition proceedings, that they will be determined, correct?
That is correct, Senator.
Thank you. No, we have an Australian, we have a view about the death penalty. The UK has a similar position. There is obviously sorry, just distracted by messages. There is a possibility or prospect, which certainly has been raised publicly, about the risk of charges once in the US jurisdiction that carry the death penalty. Presumably it is open to the Australian government to make representations to the UK government in the event that extradition was ordered about what conditions would apply to that.
Correct, Senator.
And I just want to confirm with the Minister that the government remains open to that prospect.
Which I have confirmed.
Thank you. Okay. Can I just go back? I know you touched on this with Senator Whish-Wilson. I think you indicated last year that Mr Assange had withdrawn his consent for the UK Ministry of Justice to release any information about him to the High Commission in London. Is that withdrawal of consent still in effect?
Yes, Senator.
And has the High Commission written to Mr Assange to confirm this?
We have written on numerous occasions to, in fact on 7 occasions to Mr Assange, most recently on the 31st of January, to do 2 things. One, to seek his consent to discuss his conditions with prison officials, and to offer him consular assistance.
7 times? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So the non-response means that, does that mean DFAT is effectively blocked from providing Mr Assange with consular assistance?
We are still able to provide support to his next of kin, which we do. We can continue to raise, as we have done and as the Minister has done, our interests and concerns about Mr Assange with both the UK government and the governor of the prison, where we are unable to undertake our full consular responsibilities is in actually getting answers to detailed questions.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Does Mr Menon want to come back to finish the MENA?